I'm 26 years old now, but this happened when I was 19. I was home from college for the summer, working a part-time job at a local grocery store to save up some money. My parents had this old farmhouse about 15 minutes outside of town, the kind of place that's been in the family for generations. The house itself was pretty isolated. Our nearest neighbor was maybe half a mile down the road, and beyond our property was just farmland and woods. During the day it was peaceful. At night, especially during storms, it felt like we were completely cut off from civilization. Story 1, the power outage. It was late June and the weather had been building up all day. You could feel it in the air, that heavy electric feeling that comes before a big storm. I got home from work around 9 p.m. and my parents were already in bed. They always went to sleep early. I remember going to the kitchen to make myself something to eat. I was standing at the counter making a sandwich when I heard the first rumble of thunder in the distance. I looked out the window and could see lightning flashing on the horizon. The storm rolled in fast. Within maybe 20 minutes, the wind had picked up and rain was coming down hard. I was in the living room watching TV when the power went out. Just like that, everything went dark and silent. This wasn't unusual. Our power went out all the time during storms because we were so far from town. My parents kept flashlights in almost every room for this exact reason. I grabbed the flashlight from the coffee table and clicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the living room. I could hear the rain pounding on the roof and the wind howling outside. I decided to just go to bed. There wasn't much else to do without power. I headed upstairs to my bedroom using the flashlight to guide my way. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway on the second floor. It had 2 windows, one facing the front yard and one facing the side of the house toward the driveway. I changed into pajamas and got into bed. The storm was really picking up now. Thunder was booming so loud it shook the house, and lightning was flashing constantly, lighting up my room through the windows. I was lying there trying to fall asleep when I heard something over the sound of the storm. It sounded like footsteps on gravel. Our driveway was gravel and I knew that sound well. I sat up and listened. There it was again. Definitely footsteps, crunching slowly up the driveway toward the house. I got out of bed and went to the window that faced the driveway. Lightning flashed, illuminating the yard for a brief second. I didn't see anything, but then I heard it again. Closer this time. Someone was definitely walking up our driveway. I grabbed my phone to call my dad, but then I remembered the power was out, which meant our landline was dead and cell service at the house was terrible on a good day. During a storm, it was non-existent. I looked at my phone. No signal. Another flash of lightning, and this time I saw him. A man standing in our driveway maybe 30 feet from the house. He was just standing there in the pouring rain facing the house. My heart started pounding. Who the hell was this? And why was he just standing there? I watched through the window, waiting for the next lightning flash. When it came, he was closer. Maybe 20 feet from the house now. Still just standing there. I ran to my parents' room and knocked on the door. Dad. Dad, wake up. I heard my dad stir. What? What's wrong? There's someone outside. In the driveway. He was out of bed immediately. He grabbed his flashlight and followed me back to my room. We looked out the window together. Lightning flashed. The man was even closer now. Maybe 10 feet from the front porch. What the hell? My dad muttered. He went to his bedroom and came back with his shotgun. Stay here, he told me. No way. I'm coming with you. We went downstairs together. My dad went to the front door and turned on the porch light, but nothing happened. Right, the power was out. He unlocked the door and opened it slowly, pointing his flashlight and the shotgun out into the darkness. Who's out there? He yelled over the sound of the rain. This is private property. No response. Just the sound of the storm. Lightning flashed and I saw the man clearly for the first time. He was standing at the bottom of the porch steps, soaking wet, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. His face was pale, almost gray, and he was staring directly at us. I need help, the man said. His voice was quiet, but I could hear it clearly despite the storm. My car broke down. My dad kept the gun pointed at him. Where's your car? The man pointed vaguely toward the road. Down there. Can I use your phone? Power's out, my dad said. Phone's not working. You need to go back to your car and wait for the storm to pass. Then you can drive to town. I can't, the man said. Please. I just need to come inside for a minute. I'm freezing. Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. The way he was staring at us. The way he didn't blink when lightning flashed right in his face. No, my dad said firmly. You need to leave. Now. The man didn't move. He just kept staring at us with that blank expression. I said leave, my dad yelled, raising the gun slightly. The man smiled. It was the most unsettling smile I've ever seen. Then he turned and walked back toward the driveway, disappearing into the darkness. My dad closed and locked the door. We stood there for a moment, both of us breathing hard. "Go wake your mother," he said. "Tell her what happened." I did. My mom was understandably freaked out. The three of us stayed downstairs together and my dad kept watch at the window with his gun. About an hour later, the power came back on. My dad immediately called the police and told them what happened. They came out to the house around midnight. The storm had passed by then. They searched our property and the surrounding area but didn't find anyone. They also drove up and down the road looking for a broken-down car. There was no car. No sign that anyone had been there at all. Except for one thing. In the morning, after the police had left, my dad went outside to check the driveway. There were footprints in the mud, leading from the road, up the driveway, right to our front porch steps. And then they just stopped. Like whoever made them had just vanished. We never found out who that man was or what he wanted. But I'll never forget the way he looked at us. And the way he smiled. Story 2, the roadside assistance. I was 24 years old, driving home from visiting my girlfriend who lived about 2 hours away. This was in late August and I'd left her place around 7 p.m., planning to get home by 9 o'clock. I was driving a Honda Civic at the time, nothing fancy but it was reliable. Or at least I thought it was. About halfway home, the weather started getting bad. I could see storm clouds building up ahead, dark and massive. I thought about pulling over and waiting it out, but I was on a pretty desolate stretch of highway and there weren't many places to stop. I kept driving. The storm hit hard and fast. 1 minute it was just cloudy, the next minute the sky opened up and rain was coming down so hard I could barely see the road. I slowed down to maybe 40 miles per hour, gripping the steering wheel tight. Lightning was flashing constantly, and thunder was booming so loud it rattled my car. I'd been driving in these conditions for maybe 10 minutes when my car started making a weird noise. A kind of sputtering sound from the engine. Then the check engine light came on. "No, no, no," I muttered, tapping the gas pedal. The car jerked forward, then the engine died completely. I managed to coast onto the shoulder before the car stopped. I sat there for a second, rain pounding on the roof, trying to restart the engine. It wouldn't turn over. Great. I was stranded on the side of a highway in the middle of a thunderstorm. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but of course no signal. I was in the middle of nowhere. I decided my best option was to wait it out. Maybe the storm would pass and I could get a signal, or maybe another car would come by and I could flag them down. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, watching the rain stream down my windshield. I hadn't seen a single other car on the road. It was like I was completely alone. Then I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A vehicle was approaching from behind, moving slowly. Relief flooded through me. Finally, someone who could help. The vehicle pulled up behind me. It was a pickup truck, dark-colored, maybe black or dark blue. Hard to tell in the storm. The driver's side door opened and someone got out. I couldn't see them clearly through the rain, just a figure walking toward my car. I rolled down my window about halfway. Rain immediately started coming in, but I wanted to be able to talk to whoever this was. The figure came up to my window. It was a man, probably in his 40s, wearing a rain jacket with the hood up. I couldn't see his face clearly. "Car trouble?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Engine just died. I can't get it to start." "Pop the hood," he said. "I'll take a look." I hesitated for a second. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Maybe it was just the situation, being stranded in a storm. I was naturally on edge. I pulled the hood release and the man walked to the front of the car. I watched him in my side mirror as he lifted the hood and looked at the engine. He was out there for maybe 2 minutes, then he closed the hood and came back to my window. "Looks like your alternator's shot," he said. "You're not going anywhere in this car tonight." "Damn," I said. "Okay. Do you have a phone I could use? Mine's not getting signal." "Mine either," he said. "Service is terrible out here. But I can give you a ride to the next town. There's a motel about 15 miles up the road." I thought about it. Getting out of my car and into a stranger's truck in the middle of a storm didn't seem like the smartest idea. But what other choice did I have? I couldn't just sit here all night. "Okay," I said. "Thanks. I appreciate it." I grabbed my wallet and phone and opened the car door. The rain hit me immediately, soaking through my clothes in seconds. I followed the man to his truck. He opened the passenger door for me, which I thought was weirdly polite given the circumstances. I climbed in and he closed the door behind me. The inside of the truck was dark. The only light came from the dashboard. The man got in the driver's side and started the engine. We pulled back onto the highway. Thanks again for stopping, I said. I didn't see any other cars for like half an hour. No problem, he said. Can't leave someone stranded in weather like this. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I stared out the window at the rain, watching lightning flash across the sky. Then I noticed something. On the dashboard there was a GPS unit, and it was on, glowing softly in the dark. That was weird. The man had said his phone didn't have service, but his GPS was working fine. You don't need cell service for GPS, but it seemed odd that he'd mentioned service at all. I looked over at him. He was staring straight ahead at the road, hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. His hood was still up, so I couldn't see his face clearly. So, where are you headed? I asked, trying to make conversation. Around, he said. That was it. Just around. Another few minutes of silence. I was starting to feel really uncomfortable. Something about this whole situation was wrong. I glanced at the GPS screen. It showed that we were on the highway, but there was something else. A waypoint marked on the map. A location saved as Site 3. We weren't heading toward the next town. We were heading away from it. My heart started pounding. I looked at the man again. He was still staring straight ahead, but I could see his expression now. He was smiling. A small, cold smile. Where are we going? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Taking a little detour, he said casually. I thought you said there was a motel up ahead. There is. Just taking the scenic route. There was no scenic route. We were in the middle of nowhere on a straight highway. I looked at the door handle. Wondered if I could jump out. We were going maybe 50 miles per hour. I'd probably get hurt, but it might be better than whatever this guy had planned. Actually, I said, I think I'm just going to go back to my car. You can let me out here. Can't do that, he said. His smile widened. We're almost there. Almost where? My mind was racing. I thought about my phone in my pocket. No signal, but maybe if I could. Don't even think about it, the man said, as if reading my mind. No signal out here. No one's going to help you. I made a decision. I grabbed the door handle and pulled hard. The door didn't budge. It was locked. Child locks, the man said cheerfully. Can't open them from the inside. Panic set in. I was trapped in this truck with a stranger who was taking me somewhere I definitely didn't want to go. I looked around frantically for anything I could use as a weapon. Nothing. The truck was clean, empty. Then I saw something that gave me an idea. The man's coffee cup in the center console. It was full. I grabbed it and threw the hot coffee in his face. He yelled and jerked the wheel. The truck swerved wildly, and I heard the tires screech on the wet pavement. I lunged for the steering wheel and yanked it hard to the right. The truck went off the road, bouncing violently over the shoulder. The man was cursing, trying to regain control, but I kept pulling the wheel. We crashed through some brush and came to a stop. I immediately started kicking at my window. The fourth kick shattered the glass. I climbed through, cutting my hands on the broken glass, and fell onto the muddy ground. I got up and ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away from the truck. Into the storm, into the darkness. Behind me, I heard the truck door open. Heard the man yelling. But I didn't stop. I just kept running. I ran for what felt like forever, my lungs burning, rain stinging my face. Eventually I saw lights ahead. A gas station. I stumbled inside, soaking wet and bleeding from my hands. The clerk took one look at me and called the police. They found my car where I'd left it on the highway. The alternator was fine. Nothing was wrong with it. It started right up for the police. They never found the man or the truck. I gave them every detail I could remember, but it wasn't enough. The police think he did something to my car to make it break down. That he'd been following me, waiting for the right moment. I don't drive that highway anymore. I take the long way home, even though it adds an hour to the trip. Because I'll never forget the way that man smiled at me. And the way he said, "We're almost there." Story 3, The Basement Shelter. I'm 28 years old now. This happened when I was 16, living with my family in Oklahoma. If you're not from the Midwest, you might not know how serious people take tornado warnings out there. When the sirens go off, you don't mess around. You get to shelter immediately. Our house had a basement that we used as a tornado shelter. It was pretty typical: concrete walls, a few small windows near the ceiling, and enough space for our whole family to wait out a storm comfortably. We'd used it plenty of times over the years. Tornado season was always stressful, but we had our routine down. This particular night was in early May. I was home with my younger sister Emily, who was 13 at the time. Our parents had gone to dinner in the city and wouldn't be back until late. Around 8 p.m., the weather started getting bad. I was watching TV when the broadcast was interrupted by a tornado warning. The meteorologist was saying a strong cell was moving through our area and there was confirmed rotation. I looked outside. The sky had that weird greenish tint it gets before a tornado. The wind was picking up. I called down to Emily, who was in her room. We need to go to the basement. Now. She came upstairs and we both grabbed our phones and the emergency bag our parents kept by the basement door. It had water, flashlights, a battery-powered radio, stuff like that. We went down to the basement and closed the door behind us. I turned on the radio and we listened to the weather updates. The storm was moving fast. The meteorologist was saying the tornado was on the ground, moving northeast, which was directly toward us. Emily looked scared. How long until it gets here? Maybe 10 minutes, I said, checking the radar on my phone while I still had signal. We sat on the old couch in the basement and waited. I could hear the wind howling outside, getting louder and louder. Thunder was booming. Then the power went out. The basement went pitch black. I fumbled for the flashlight in the emergency bag and turned it on. The beam of light made the basement feel even more enclosed, casting weird shadows on the walls. I hate this, Emily said quietly. It'll be okay, I told her. We've done this before. The wind was screaming now. I could hear things hitting the side of the house, branches, debris, who knows what. The whole house was shaking. Then I heard something else. A sound that didn't fit. It sounded like footsteps. Upstairs. In the house. I froze, listening. There it was again. Definitely footsteps. Slow and deliberate, walking across the floor above us. Did you hear that? Emily whispered. I nodded. My mind was racing. Our parents weren't home. It was just us. Who the hell was in our house? The footsteps continued, moving from the kitchen toward the living room. Then they stopped. We sat in complete silence, barely breathing. The storm was still raging outside, but all I could focus on was listening for those footsteps. Then we heard the basement door open. Emily grabbed my arm. Oh my God, she breathed. The footsteps started coming down the basement stairs. Slow, heavy steps, one at a time. I grabbed the flashlight and pointed it at the stairs. My hand was shaking so badly the beam of light was bouncing everywhere. Who's there? I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. This is private property. The footsteps stopped. Whoever it was, they were maybe halfway down the stairs. But they were in the dark, beyond where my flashlight beam reached. I know you're there, I said. I'm calling the police right now. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course. The storm must have knocked out the cell tower. The footsteps started again, continuing down the stairs. I stood up, pulling Emily behind me. Stay back. I yelled. I'm armed. I wasn't, but whoever this was didn't know that. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. I pointed the flashlight directly at where they should be. There was no one there. I swept the flashlight around the basement. Empty. Just our furniture, some boxes, the water heater in the corner. Where did they go? Emily whispered. I had no idea. The basement had no other exits. If someone had come down those stairs, they should be right in front of us. Then I heard breathing. Heavy, raspy breathing, like someone trying to catch their breath. It was coming from the corner of the basement, near the water heater. I pointed the flashlight toward the sound. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed movement. A shadow, shifting slightly. Someone was standing there. In the corner. Perfectly still except for the movement of breathing. Who are you? I demanded. What do you want? The shadow didn't respond. Didn't move. Emily was crying now, clinging to my arm. I made a decision. I grabbed Emily's hand and pulled her toward the stairs. We were getting out of the basement. Tornado or no tornado, I wasn't staying down here with this person. We ran up the stairs as fast as we could. I could hear footsteps behind us, following us up. We burst through the basement door into the kitchen. The house was dark, lit only by flashes of lightning through the windows. The wind was still howling. I could hear the tornado sirens blaring in the distance. I pulled Emily toward the front door, but it wouldn't open. Something was blocking it from the outside. I ran to the back door. Same thing. We were trapped. The basement door behind us was still open. I could hear those footsteps again, coming up from the basement. I grabbed Emily and we ran upstairs to my bedroom. I locked the door and pushed my dresser in front of it. We huddled in the corner, listening. The footsteps came up the stairs. Slow and deliberate. They stopped outside my bedroom door. The door handle started to turn. I held Emily close and we both closed our eyes, waiting for whatever was going to happen. Then the tornado hit. The sound was like a freight train. The whole house shook violently. I heard glass shattering, wood splintering. The wind was so loud I couldn't hear anything else. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Then, just as quickly as it started, it stopped. The storm passed. Everything went quiet. I slowly opened my eyes. My bedroom was a mess. The window had blown out and rain had soaked everything. Part of the ceiling had collapsed. But we were alive. I moved the dresser and opened the bedroom door, ready to run if I had to. The hallway was empty. No footsteps. No breathing. Nothing. We went downstairs carefully. The house was damaged, but still standing. The basement door was closed. I didn't want to, but I had to check. I opened the basement door and looked down. Empty. No one was down there. When our parents got home an hour later, they found us sitting on the front porch. They tried to get home during the storm but had to take shelter themselves. We told them everything. About the footsteps. The shadow in the corner. The person who followed us upstairs. They checked the entire house, including the basement. There was no sign anyone had been there. No broken windows on the first floor. No forced entry anywhere. Nothing missing. The police came and searched the house too. They found nothing. To this day, I don't know who or what was in our basement that night. I don't know if it was a person who somehow got in and then got out, or if it was something else. But I'll never forget the sound of those footsteps coming down the basement stairs. And the shadow in the corner, breathing in the darkness. We moved to a different house 6 months later. My parents said it was because of the tornado damage, but I think they believed us. I think they were scared too. I still hear thunderstorms differently now. Every time the wind picks up and the sky gets dark, I remember that night. And I wonder if it could happen again.